The air was thick with tension, a palpable anxiety that wrapped around the assembled crowd like a shroud. The steady murmur of voices rose and fell, punctuated by the occasional shout or laughter, but all eyes were trained on the makeshift stage where horses awaited their fate. Underneath the bright lights, shadows danced, revealing the nervous shifting of hooves and flaring nostrils as each horse sensed their imminent destiny. Among them stood Lacy, her sleek coat glimmering under the harsh glare, conveying both beauty and vulnerability. The mare's deep brown eyes flickered with uncertainty as she surveyed her surroundings. She could hear faint whispers from spectators discussing her fate, words that felt like daggers piercing through her heart. "Look at that one. Strong build," someone remarked, while another added, "I bet she'll fetch a good price." Lacy's pulse quickened as they gestured toward her. She felt a primal instinct to flee welling up inside. A heavy feeling settled in her chest, an unshakable fear of being separated from everything familiar. She shifted restlessly on her feet, scraping them against the ground beneath her, dirt mixed with hay from previous auctions and remnants of anxious energy. Suddenly, a loud voice broke through the din, a sharp call that commanded attention. "Next up is Lot 41. A magnificent mare ready for bidding!" It echoed across the open area, filled with eager buyers and seasoned ranchers whose gazes held little compassion for creatures caught in this merciless cycle. She blinked at the sudden surge of interest directed toward her. Men and women began raising hands eagerly as bids escalated quickly. 2,000! shouted one man adorned in dusty jeans and a weathered hat. 2,500! chimed in another voice nearby. Each new bid felt like thunderclaps reverberating within Lacy's chest. Her heart raced faster than she thought possible as uncertainty gnawed at her insides. Around her, other horses whinnied softly, some displaying submission, while others bristled with anticipation or dread at their impending futures. Just then, Salvador emerged into view, his youthful exuberance marred only by naivety surrounding their circumstances. His instincts urged him to approach Lacy. He moved close enough to brush against her flank gently while craning his neck upward as if trying to reassure his mother that everything would be all right despite what lay ahead. The sight tugged at Lacy's heartstrings. She wished desperately to shield him from this harsh reality, to protect him from being sold off to who knows where or worse yet, never seeing him again once he slipped away into unknown hands. With each passing second came rising stakes. She had been raised on stories told among wild mustangs about those who lost everything when captured by humans seeking profits instead of companionship or care. Would they end up alone? Would someone understand them enough, not merely turn them into laborers? 3,000 Lacy's heart raced as she stood with Salvador close beside her, the unsettling sounds of hooves and voices echoing in the distance. The air was thick with tension, heavy enough that it felt as if the very atmosphere pressed down on her like a storm cloud about to burst. The scent of damp earth mixed with pine lingered in her nostrils, grounding her momentarily as she focused on the challenge ahead. The young F.O. shuffled nervously at her side, his big eyes wide and glistening in the dim light filtering through the trees. Every instinct urged Lacy to protect him from what lay ahead. The imminent danger they faced was palpable. "Salvador," she murmured softly, hoping to soothe him despite their grim circumstances. "Stay close." Salvador took a cautious step forward, brushing against Lacy's flank with a nuzzle that spoke volumes, a shared understanding that whatever awaited them could not sever their bond. She leaned into his warmth, absorbing his courage even as doubt gnawed at her thoughts. They had heard stories whispered among the herd about others who had vanished into human hands, never to return or worse, stripped of their freedom and spirit. With each passing moment came a rising tide of fear. Images flashed through Lacy's mind, unfamiliar faces taking Salvador away from her forever, or worse still, losing him completely in an unfathomable fate where kindness was an unfulfilled promise. Her protective instincts flared fiercely. All she wanted was to shield him from this cruel reality. The rustling grew louder now, punctuated by deeper voices calling out and echoes of laughter that rang hollow against the backdrop of looming trees. Panic gripped Lacy momentarily, causing her muscles to tense as uncertainty settled deep within her bones like an icy chill. $3,000! A voice boomed sharply through the silence, a man speaking with an authority that rattled inside Lacy's chest like thunder rolling ominously across darkened skies. This wasn't just any auction. This was desperation, dressed up in flashy smiles and shiny bids laced with greed. What would they do? Would someone recognize Salvador's gentle spirit? Would they even care enough to look past profit margins? "Salvador," Lacy whispered urgently, "if we are separated—" Her voice faltered under the weight of despair threatening to crush them both. She wished desperately for reassurance, to know he would be safe regardless of what happened next. "I won't let anything happen to us," he replied earnestly, pressing closer against her side. His youthful determination surged within Lacy, a tiny spark igniting hope amidst uncertainty. "Promise me you'll stay alert," she insisted firmly, but gently nudged him back slightly so she could see his face clearly beneath the pale light filtering through swaying branches. The air was thick with tension, a palpable sense of impending change as Lacy stood beside Salvador, her heart racing with uncertainty. Shadows danced across the ground, cast by the low-hanging sun that filtered through the surrounding trees, illuminating the scene in warm hues that felt painfully deceptive. The sounds of distant chatter and clanging metal echoed from the direction of the loading area, where humans prepared to take them away from their home. "Do you think they'll understand us?" Lacy whispered, casting a cautious glance at the trailer that loomed like an ominous beast at the edge of their pasture. Its metallic sheen glinted ominously, reflecting both light and dread in equal measure. The scent of hay mixed with anxiety hung heavy in the air. It was a stark reminder of what lay ahead. Salvador nudged closer to his mother's side, his youthful spirit flickering under the weight of their predicament. "I hope so," he replied softly, but with determination in his voice. "Maybe they'll see how special we are." He pressed against her flank, drawing strength from her presence, even as uncertainty gnawed at both their hearts. They had heard stories among the herd, tales woven from whispers of freedom lost and lives exchanged for profit. As humans approached, Lacy's muscles tensed involuntarily. She fought against every instinct telling her to flee or hide. But here she stood, heart aching at the thought of being separated from Salvador, a fear that clawed mercilessly at her mind. A rustle broke through her thoughts as one of the humans stepped forward, clipboard in hand and eyes scanning over them like a hawk assessing its prey. Lacy stiffened, aware of how vulnerable they were beneath his gaze. The man gestured toward another who stood ready near the trailer's door with a long rope coiled tightly around his hands. "Time to load them up," he called out casually, as if announcing something mundane rather than orchestrating a pivotal moment in their lives. Salvador perked up slightly, but stayed close to Lacy's side as more figures emerged into view, each one carrying equipment and an attitude filled with purpose, but not necessarily compassion. "Stay close to me," Lacy instructed firmly yet gently, while shifting slightly so Salvador could nuzzle against her shoulder for comfort. "I won't let anything happen to us," he assured again, though uncertainty lingered just below the surface, a tremor in his voice betraying how much this mattered to him. As they slowly approached the trailer, cold metal met warm flesh. Salvador hesitated briefly before stepping onto its ramp, a threshold between two worlds fraught with peril and promise alike. His hooves clicked against metal beneath him, while shadows gathered behind them like old friends unwilling to part ways just yet. Lacy watched intently as he took that first step inside, a leap into what lay beyond their tranquil existence, and winced slightly when she felt pressure build within herself. Anticipation mixed with fear crested like waves crashing on rocky shores. Lacy's heart raced as Salvador stepped cautiously onto the trailer's ramp, a barrier between their familiar life in the wild and an uncertain future. The cold metal felt foreign under his hooves, each click echoing like a drumbeat of anxiety against the stillness of the night. He turned briefly to meet Lacy's gaze, seeking reassurance in her soft, dark eyes. "I won't let anything happen to us," he vowed again, though doubt lingered beneath his brave facade. The shadows cast by the overhead light flickered ominously around them as they moved deeper into this new world. Inside, the trailer smelled of varnish and hay, a sharp contrast to the earthy scents of grass and freedom they were accustomed to. As Salvador took another cautious step forward, he could hear Lacy's breath, quickened yet steady behind him. It filled him with a sense of responsibility. She was counting on him not just for safety, but for courage too. "Stick close to me," Lacy urged softly. "We'll face whatever comes together." Her voice held a warmth that wrapped around Salvador like a blanket, fortifying his resolve against the encroaching fear. The moment he crossed fully into the confines of the trailer, there was a sudden lurch in his stomach, a mix of excitement and trepidation about what lay ahead. What awaited them on this journey? Would they find kindness or judgment? As uncertainty loomed over their heads like an impending storm cloud, Salvador couldn't shake off that nagging question. Would they be seen for who they truly were? With a gentle push from behind urging him forward, he stepped further into the space where destiny awaited them both. The sound of metal sliding shut resonated like thunder in his ears. It echoed with both finality and promise, the door sealing away everything familiar while simultaneously opening up possibilities untold. Lacy watched intently as Salvador walked toward one end of the trailer while keeping vigilant over her shoulder. She needed him alert now more than ever. There was no telling what might come next or how long they'd remain trapped within these walls lined with strange objects and unfamiliar noises, a far cry from their quiet existence among swaying grasses under expansive skies. As the engine rumbled to life outside their metallic cocoon, Lacy could feel vibrations pulse through her legs, a reminder that life outside was moving swiftly onward without them. She pressed closer beside Salvador for comfort, even as anticipation bubbled up inside her, a feeling mingled with apprehension over what new journey awaited beyond this narrow passageway. "You ready?" she asked softly, glancing at him with hope flickering across her features. "I'm ready," he replied firmly, despite a tremor running through his limbs. Together, they braced themselves against whatever lay ahead, an unknown adventure beckoning just beyond those walls, waiting patiently for them at every turn. Salvador stood at the base of the trailer ramp, his heart racing as he peered into the metallic enclosure that promised both uncertainty and new beginnings. The cold surface beneath his hooves contrasted sharply with Lacy's warm presence beside him, offering comfort amidst the swirl of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. A mixture of trepidation and excitement coursed through his veins, each beat echoing in time with Lacy's gentle reassurance. "I won't let anything happen to us," he vowed quietly, though a tremor laced his voice, a sign of how profoundly this moment weighed on him. His eyes darted between the darkness of the trailer and the vast expanse of their familiar pasture, which seemed to beckon them back. Yet adventure waited just beyond that threshold. Lacy watched intently as Salvador took a cautious step forward onto the ramp, feeling an odd sensation build within her. a blend of hope and anxiety cresting like waves crashing against rocks. She could sense Salvador's hesitation, but admired his bravery. It mirrored her own resolve. "Are you ready?" she whispered softly, leaning close to catch his gaze. His nod was determined, even if a flicker of doubt passed through him. "I'm ready." Together, they forged ahead into this new realm, crossing into a world filled with strange sounds and unfamiliar scents, so unlike their quiet life among swaying grasses under open skies. As they ventured deeper inside, Salvador felt the vibrations from the engine rumbling outside resonate through his legs, a reminder that life continued moving swiftly without them. The trailer enveloped them in shadows as it lurched into motion. Salvador pressed against Lacy for support. In this cramped space, every noise seemed amplified. The clicking of their hooves on metal echoed back at them like distant voices whispering secrets neither could comprehend. Outside their confining cocoon lay an unknown journey filled with promise, yet shadowed by uncertainty. Lacy leaned closer to Salvador, her breath mingled with anticipation as she sensed change looming just beyond reach. "Just keep breathing," she urged softly as they huddled together for warmth and courage amid encroaching fears. Salvador took a deep breath and steadied himself before shifting closer to her side once more. They were bound not only by blood, but by an unspoken bond formed through shared trials. Their connection growing stronger with each passing second spent navigating this uncertain terrain together. After what felt like hours trapped in stillness, punctuated by rattling noises around them, light suddenly flooded into their cramped space as the doors swung open wide like welcoming arms, revealing sprawling land bathed in bright sunlight filtering down from above. Stepping out cautiously onto solid ground, Salvador squinted against dazzling brightness while instinctively searching for familiar sights, tall grass swaying gently in warm breezes, endless sky stretching overhead. Look, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the meadow as Lacy and Salvador took their first cautious steps into the world beyond the corral. The fresh scent of grass and wildflowers filled the air, mixing with an exhilarating hint of adventure. Lacy felt a surge of energy coursing through her body, emboldening her to explore this new territory alongside her son. "Look at all this space," she murmured, her voice a blend of awe and wonder as she glanced around, taking in the vast expanse of open land stretching out before them. "We can run anywhere we want." Salvador's eyes sparkled with excitement while uncertainty lingered just beneath his surface. "What if something comes after us?" he asked softly, glancing back toward the safety of the corral where they had spent so many days sheltered from potential dangers. Lacy nuzzled against him, offering reassurance as warmth radiated from their closeness. "We'll stay close to each other," she promised, determination lacing her tone. "And remember what Willis taught us about staying together." For weeks now, they had grown accustomed to human presence, especially that of Willis, who had shown them kindness and care during their recovery. It wasn't always easy for them to trust. Instinct urged caution whenever unfamiliar scents wafted through the air or when sudden noises startled them from their thoughts. But time had begun to weave its magic thread between them and their rescuer. Every gentle touch from Willis, while treating their wounds, turned into an anchor for trust. Every soft word, whispered during late-night check-ins, helped solidify a bond formed under duress, the kind that could only grow stronger when nurtured by compassion. As they ventured further from familiar grounds, Lacy paused periodically to allow Salvador moments of exploration, a chance for him to embrace his burgeoning confidence without losing sight of her watchful gaze. She understood how important it was for him to feel secure in this vast environment where every rustle in the bushes might signal danger. "Stay close," she called encouragingly whenever he dashed ahead with eagerness bubbling within him like spring water rushing over stones. "Yes, Mom," he replied cheerfully, but kept looking back often enough that she couldn't help but smile at his youthful exuberance mixed with underlying trepidation. They played tag among patches of sunlight filtering through leaves swaying gently above. Laughter echoed in snippets here and there, a language only they seemed capable of understanding amid fading rays marking evening's approach. Yet even as joy enveloped them both like a warm blanket on chilly nights, an unspoken current pulsed between mother and son, knowledge born from hardship, bound together by resilience, forged on rocky paths littered with struggle. Eventually, Salvador darted back toward Lacy when an unfamiliar sound caught his attention. A distant rumble reverberating throughout the meadow. Salvador's heart raced as he stood in the sunlit meadow, surrounded by the scents of wildflowers and fresh grass. The world was vast and alive, filled with promise. He felt a thrill of freedom coursing through him, but just as quickly, that excitement shifted into a flutter of unease as a deep rumble echoed across the open land. His ears perked up, straining to catch any familiar sounds amid this new environment. "Mom?" he called out, his voice carrying an edge of concern as he glanced back at Lacy. She met his gaze with reassurance, tempered by her own uneasiness. "I hear it too," she responded softly, lifting her head and cocking it slightly to one side. They both listened intently as the sound grew louder, a low growl that rippled like thunder across the meadow. The tranquility shattered when three figures appeared at the edge of their territory, strangers who emerged from behind a curtain of trees. Salvador instinctively moved closer to Lacy's side, sensing something was amiss. These newcomers approached with caution but purpose. Each step seemed deliberate, yet laden with skepticism. "Are those them?" one man asked another, a tall figure in worn denim and a broad-brimmed hat shading his eyes from the sun's glare. "Yeah," came the reply from a woman beside him, her hands resting on her hips defiantly. "They're not even wild anymore. They look well-fed." Lacy's muscles tensed at their words while Salvador pressed against her flank for comfort, mirroring her protective stance. They shared an unspoken understanding. These humans did not come seeking friendship. "What's your plan?" the second man questioned again, peering closely at Salvador's youthful frame and Lacy's weary body. "You think we should intervene? It's risky taking them in." "No," said the woman firmly before turning her attention toward them, her sharp gaze cutting through the distance like an arrow aimed true. "They'll only become dependent on us if we start feeding them or giving them shelter." Salvador's pulse quickened. Instinct told him to flee or hide from these doubters, whose judgment hung heavy in the air around them. Yet Lacy remained resolute, facing their approach with quiet courage, the warmth radiating from her skin, providing solace amidst uncertainty. "I don't want anything to do with human interactions," she murmured under breath, so only Salvador could hear while inching subtly closer together until their coats brushed softly against one another. A silent vow bolstering strength between them. "What if they've been treated poorly?" Salvador whispered anxiously as he glanced back toward where they had come from. The memories of darkness creeping back unbidden, still gnawing at him like ravenous wolves lurking just beyond sight. "We have our lives now. Let's focus on that," Lacy urged gently but firmly while keeping eyes trained forward ahead. Yet there was sadness woven within those words too. Echoes of past struggles surfacing momentarily before retreating once more beneath layers woven tightly around their bond forged through adversity. As dawn broke over the mountains, the crisp air was filled with a tangible sense of anticipation. Lacy and Salvador stood side by side in the corral, their breaths visible in the morning light as they prepared for what lay ahead. Willis stepped outside his cabin, coffee in hand, ready to begin the training process that would not only strengthen their bond, but also help them adjust to their new life. "Today's a big day for you two," he announced, leaning against the wooden fence. His voice carried warmth and encouragement, designed to soothe any lingering apprehension they might feel. Lacy looked up at him, her dark eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and determination. Salvador fidgeted beside her, shifting his weight from hoof to hoof as if restless energy thrummed through his body. Willis began with basic groundwork exercises. He approached Salvador first, extending his palm toward the young stallion. "Let's see how well you remember our last encounter," he said gently, hoping to instill confidence rather than fear. The foe's ears perked forward. He took a tentative step closer before halting abruptly, a moment of uncertainty flickering across his features. "Easy now," Willis encouraged softly as he knelt down and reached out again. "I'm not here to hurt you." After what felt like an eternity of waiting, Salvador took another step forward and nudged his nose into Willis's hand, a sign of trust beginning to blossom amid lingering reservations. The warmth of that small gesture ignited something within Willis, a sense of purpose that surged alongside memories from long ago when bonds were forged through care and understanding rather than conflict. As he stroked Salvador's neck with gentle strokes, feeling the soft texture beneath his fingertips, he spoke calmly about what they would learn together today. "Just like I had your back during that rock slide," he continued, while maintaining eye contact with both horses. "You can rely on me now. Every step we take is one toward becoming a team." Next came Lacy's turn. She watched attentively as her son interacted with Willis. With deliberate movements laced with intention, she walked forward just behind Salvador, her strong presence anchoring him despite initial hesitations. Willis turned towards her too. The connection between horse and human deepened under unspoken agreement. "All right there, girl," he said softly, while reaching out towards Lacy too. It was important she felt included in this journey as well, not merely an observer while her offspring took center stage. She met him halfway, but held back slightly. Remnants of wariness still lingered in her stance, although confidence shone through increasingly each passing day spent at the ranch since being rescued from beneath those rocks. "I know it feels strange," Willis murmured soothingly, while moving carefully around her body to avoid startling or overwhelming anyone involved in these delicate moments. Training could easily veer off course without regard for emotions attached, deeply rooted within them both. "But I promise it will get easier." Willis moved cautiously through the corral, his heart beating steadily as he reached out toward Lacy. As he approached, she stood still, her eyes wide and vigilant, scanning the perimeter for anything that might threaten the peace they had all fought to achieve. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground where Salvador frolicked nearby, practicing what he'd learned in their training sessions. Lacy nodded slowly, but there was a flicker of uncertainty behind her gaze. She took a step back as he extended his hand toward her muzzle. The sound of hooves against soft earth filled the air as Salvador pranced around with exuberance, yet Lacy seemed less at ease amidst their joyful antics. It was clear that echoes of their past lingered just below the surface, a battle fought not only against physical dangers, but also against ingrained fears that came from being hunted and nearly lost. A sudden noise interrupted the moment. A rustling in the bushes beyond the corral's fence sent a shiver through Lacy's frame. Her muscles tensed instinctively, nostrils flared wide as she stared intently into the brush where darkness pooled like ink. She whinnied softly, an anxious call that reverberated through Willis's chest as if echoing his own rising concerns. "It's okay," he reassured gently, stepping closer to stand beside her as if providing reassurance by proximity alone. "Whatever it is won't harm us." He felt her tremble slightly beneath him, a reminder that even those who had survived harrowing experiences could falter when faced with unfamiliar threats. The bushes parted and revealed a stray dog trotting into view. Its tail wagged uncertainly as it approached, Lacy's body stiffened further as she pivoted away from this newcomer with wary determination, finding solace in Willis's steady presence beside her. The dog paused briefly before turning its head to survey them both, its bright eyes glimmering with curiosity rather than aggression. "Not everyone means harm," Willis whispered gently towards Lacy while keeping his own focus on this uninvited visitor. It helped to break tension when distractions were introduced amongst such fraught encounters. But just then, Salvador darted forward boldly towards the dog, not understanding danger nor questioning intentions, as if inviting playful interaction instead of fearful retreat. His youthful exuberance bubbled over like effervescent energy, bursting forth from every pore, while racing circles around it now rendered temporarily frozen in indecision. "No!" "Come back!" snapped Willis sharply, rushing after Salvador, instinctively fearing for both animals' safety. Thoughts flashed through his mind about consequences stemming from unexpected encounters, yet again transforming tranquility into chaos at any moment. The moment Willis's voice pierced the air, a weighty silence cloaked the scene. Salvador, eager and oblivious to danger, bounded toward the dog with an innocent excitement that sent a shiver down Willis's spine. The suddenness of it startled him, as if time itself had fractured. He could feel his pulse quickening, an instinctual fear surging through him. "Salvador, no!" The urgency in his voice cut through the crisp mountain night, but the FO continued his carefree dash, weaving around the canine like a playful breeze. Lacy's ears flicked back in alarm. Her instincts flared, sensing the tension in her surroundings. She stepped forward cautiously, attempting to gauge both Salvador's impulsiveness and the dog's still presence. Willis rushed forward, anxiety flooding him as he watched Salvador prance dangerously close to something unknown. Each heartbeat echoed in his ears like thunder, while every step felt weighted with dread. What if this encounter turned catastrophic? Memories of past rescues flashed across his mind. Unpredictability was woven into the fabric of living among these mountains. "Come back here!" he called again, attempting to sound authoritative but knowing that desperation leaked through. In that instant, a heartbeat stretched into eternity. He saw Salvador halt abruptly before the dog and cock his head quizzically. The dog stood motionless, its posture tense, yet unyielding. Then came an unexpected twist, and rather than fleeing or snapping at this exuberant young creature encroaching upon its territory, the dog seemed momentarily frozen in surprise by Salvador's audacity. It didn't bark or growl. Instead, it blinked slowly, as if weighing its options amidst confusion and curiosity. Willis slowed his pace, then halted just short of them both. He couldn't help but marvel at how this moment unfurled, a wild dance between innocence and caution swirling around them all under muted starlight. "Easy now," he murmured more softly this time, towards Lacy, who stepped closer beside him now. She had picked up on his emotions like a finely tuned instrument attuned to its conductor. Her large, dark eyes glistened with something akin to understanding as she shifted her weight nervously on her hooves, yet maintained a composure that mirrored her growing trust in him over recent weeks. With careful breaths mingling with cool air, heavy from dusk, settling into nightfall around them, Willis took another small step forward, their connection firming beneath layers of shared experience and determination toward mutual respect for boundaries long since breached. "Lacy," he whispered soothingly, while raising an arm toward her cautiously so she would know what he intended, a gentle invitation rather than demand, to acknowledge not just their physical proximity, but also share in this peculiar encounter unfolding alongside her foal out there, testing limits just beyond reach. Willis remained motionless, heart racing, his breath coming in quick bursts as he assessed the situation. The dog stood on the edge of the clearing, its ears perked and eyes wide with curiosity, seemingly captivated by Salvador's playful antics. The foal, unaware of the potential threat, pranced around like a jubilant spirit unburdened by caution. "No! Come back!" Willis called out sharply, adrenaline surging through him as he lunged forward after Salvador. Panic flared in his chest. He knew all too well how quickly tranquility could dissolve into chaos when animals met unpredictability. The dog shifted hesitantly. It wasn't aggressive, but appeared unsure of its next move. Its tail hung low between its legs, a silent plea for understanding amid the tension that now filled the air around them. Lacy observed from her spot nearby, her dark eyes glimmering with concern for her offspring as she instinctively stepped closer to protect Salvador. "Easy there," Willis muttered under his breath, trying to remain calm even while fear twisted inside him like a coiled spring ready to snap. He took cautious steps toward both Lacy and Salvador. Every movement was slow and deliberate, so that they would recognize his intentions were peaceful. As he drew nearer to Lacy, he sensed her unease mingling with the cool evening air settling around them like a heavy blanket. "Lacy," he whispered softly, extending an arm toward her in invitation, a gentle gesture aimed at reaffirming their bond forged through countless shared experiences over recent weeks. He wanted her to understand this wasn't just another encounter, but rather an opportunity for connection amidst uncertainty. The playful laughter of Salvador echoed off the mountainside as he darted back towards them, bounding forth with unabashed joy and courage fueled by innocence. He barely noticed how close danger loomed before him, caught up instead in an exhilarating dance full of life. But Willis could feel time ticking away. The rift between predator and prey loomed larger than any physical distance separating them from safety or disaster. With each second lost deliberating over what action to take next, came mounting dread that threatened not only their safety, but tested everything they had built together since that fateful night beneath falling rocks. "Salvador!" "Stay close." His voice rang out clear yet urgent in hopes that perhaps it would resonate within some sense of instinctive caution buried deep within youthful exuberance. An impulse learned by watching others navigate similar situations where shadows lurked just beyond reach. As if understanding his call for caution, or maybe sensing something primal about what lay ahead, Lacy gave an encouraging nicker toward her foal while inching forward slightly herself so she could remain at ease yet vigilant against whatever threat might arise unexpectedly. The air around them thickened with tension as Willis stood at the precipice of decision. Lacy's large, dark eyes shimmered under the fading light, mirroring both her apprehension and an emerging trust that had grown in the weeks since their fateful night together. He sensed her nervousness as she shifted on her hooves, yet there was a steadiness in her demeanor that spoke volumes about their shared journey, a testament to how far they had come. "Lacy," he murmured softly, extending his hand toward her in a slow, deliberate motion. His aim was to invite connection rather than impose it. The world fell away for a moment. All that existed were the two of them and the unspoken bond they shared, one forged through vulnerability and healing amidst chaos. Behind him, Salvador explored their surroundings with youthful zeal, his foal darting between patches of twilight-streaked grass and shadows cast by ancient trees. Every so often, he would glance back toward his mother, gauging her presence before leaping into new adventures with reckless abandon. "Salvador, stay close!" Willis called out firmly yet gently, wanting to impart a sense of caution along with encouragement. There was an instinctive intelligence in horses that guided them through perilous moments. It was now up to him to guide both mother and child against whatever lurking threats might be concealed in the dusk. Lacy responded with a reassuring nicker toward Salvador while inching forward cautiously herself. Her instincts kicked in as she sought to remain protective yet vigilant against potential danger, an echo of wisdom honed through survival in these rugged mountains. As if attuned to their heightened awareness of possible threats nearby, Salvador paused mid-play, his ears pricking up at every sound, the gentle rustle of leaves overhead mingling with distant chirps from crickets beginning their nightly serenade. Each minute detail sharpened Willis's focus. Every quiet whisper from nature felt like a warning beneath the blanket of nightfall surrounding them. A sudden chill sliced through the air as shadows deepened around them, a sensation heavy enough to make even seasoned woodsmen uneasy. Something primal stirred within him as he scanned their surroundings. Were those merely branches creaking or something more sinister? He couldn't shake off an unsettling sense that they were being watched, not only by nature, but also by unseen forces lying just outside this fragile bubble they'd created together. Willis took another steadying breath, aware that every passing second lost deliberating over what action should follow intensified his dread for not just himself, but for Lacy and Salvador too. Could this moment shatter everything they had built together since fate threw them into each other's paths? He turned fully toward Lacy then, her presence grounding amidst uncertainty, and saw courage flicker behind her soulful gaze. It ignited something profound inside him too, resolve mixed deeply with fear, but tempered by hope for what lay ahead. The atmosphere was thick with tension as Willis surveyed the dimly lit woods surrounding them. Shadows danced in the flickering light, and every rustle of leaves seemed amplified in the stillness of night. He could feel a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach, each heartbeat a reminder of the fragility of their newfound bond. With every breath, he fought to suppress the instinctive urge to retreat into safety. But Lacy stood resolutely at his side, her presence grounding him amidst uncertainty. "Salvador, stay close." His voice cut through the silence, carrying an urgency that echoed against the trees. The command was not just for show, it was a desperate plea wrapped in hope that perhaps his son would heed this call for caution. In response to his shout, Lacy gave an encouraging nicker, her ears pricking forward as she moved slightly ahead. She had learned well from their harrowing experience together, her instincts sharpened by necessity, and now embodied courage and watchfulness as they faced whatever lurked beyond their makeshift haven. They were moments away from confirming their fate when out of nowhere came a low growl, a sound so primal it sent shivers racing down Willis's spine. He turned toward Lacy, seeking reassurance in her steadfast gaze. There was something undeniably fierce behind those dark eyes, a blend of trust and determination that reignited a flicker of resolve within him. Willis knelt beside her and whispered softly, "We can do this." Though fear gnawed at him like an insistent animal on its prey, he drew strength from her steady demeanor. Together they shared this burden. Together they would face what lay ahead. As if sensing the need to act decisively, Lacy took a step forward into the encroaching darkness. Her hooves crunched softly against twigs scattered across the forest floor, each sound sharp and clear amidst the oppressive quietude around them. Salvador mirrored her movement closely behind, curiosity bubbling just beneath his surface as he edged nearer to explore whatever awaited them beyond. Suddenly, there was another growl, this one deeper and more resonant than before, followed by snapping branches that shattered any remnants of calmness hanging in the air. Forcing himself to breathe steadily through clenched teeth while standing firm beside Lacy felt like balancing on a knife's edge. One misstep could tumble them back into chaos. "Stay alert," he cautioned in barely above a whisper. The shadows shifted ominously around them, a looming threat waiting for its moment to strike. But somehow, both mother and foal remained composed, despite impending danger looming overhead like dark clouds ready to unleash stormy rain. With unwavering bravery coursing through her veins, Lacy moved confidently onward into unknown territory where dangers might lie hidden between patches of dense foliage or beneath gnarled roots, twisting menacingly along pathways obscured from view altogether. A gust of wind swept through the trees, sending a shiver down Willis's spine. The rustling leaves felt alive with ominous whispers, and he couldn't shake the sensation that they were not alone. Every creak of the branches above seemed amplified in the thick silence, reminding him of their precarious position on this unfamiliar path. Lacy stood steadfast beside him, her gaze fixed ahead, ears perked as if listening intently for any sign of danger lurking in the shadows. "Stay sharp," he murmured quietly, his voice barely rising above a whisper, attempting to instill confidence not only within himself, but also in Lacy and Salvador. He could feel the tension radiating from them both. Each heartbeat was an echo of apprehension woven tightly with anticipation. They had come so far together, he couldn't allow fear to fracture their bond now. The trail narrowed as they ventured deeper into unknown territory, surrounded by dense foliage that cast dark patterns across their path. Lacy moved forward with a grace that belied her injured leg. Determination pulsed through her every step as she navigated obstacles with care. Her resilience inspired him to push onward despite uncertainty weighing heavily upon his shoulders. Just ahead lay a bend in the trail, obscured by thick underbrush, a potential haven, or perhaps a trap waiting to ensnare them within its grasp. As they approached cautiously, Willis heard it. A faint sound drifting through the air, a soft whicker tinged with urgency emanating from beyond the thicket. "Lacy, it's coming from there," he said, excitement igniting a flicker of hope inside him as he gestured toward the source of the call. Without hesitation, Lacy led them off course toward where the noise originated, the instinctive desire to protect her foal, pushing aside any lingering doubts about what awaited them ahead. With every step closer, suspense thickened around them, like fog rolling down from distant mountains. Adrenaline surged through Willis's veins as they finally broke free from tangled branches into an open clearing bathed in moonlight. And there it was, a sight that washed away doubt and filled his heart with triumph. Another mare stood before them on shaking legs, eyes wide and searching for safety amidst newfound chaos. Lacy stepped forward without fear this time. She approached her companion slowly yet purposefully until mere inches separated them. An unspoken recognition passed between horses born from shared struggles and survival instincts honed over countless nights spent fighting against nature's cruelty. "Do you see?" Willis whispered under his breath. "You found your friend." Gratitude swelled within him at witnessing this reunion, the beauty of connection unfurling itself like petals on a blooming flower amid harsh surroundings drew tears of relief to his eyes. But their momentary victory was soon overshadowed by reality knocking insistently at their door. While one life was restored here today beneath starlit skies, others still hung in balance among mountains teeming with dangers unseen, yet keenly felt. The crisp air hung thick with tension as Willis and Lacy moved cautiously through the dimly lit forest. The sound of rustling leaves echoed ominously, sending shivers down Willis's spine as he steadied his breath, focusing on maintaining calm in the presence of potential danger. They pressed forward, with Lacy leading the way, her instincts finely tuned to any threat lurking nearby. Despite the shadows that loomed ominously around them like dark clouds threatening a storm, both mother and foal exuded an unexpected serenity amid uncertainty. Willis watched as Lacy navigated their surroundings with unwavering courage. Each step she took seemed more deliberate, driven by a profound instinct to protect her young one while forging onward into unfamiliar terrain. Memories flooded back, those harrowing nights spent in sheer survival mode against nature's relentless fury. But now, here they were, moving together, stronger than ever before. "Do you see?" Willis whispered under his breath as he observed the way Lacy approached Salvador cautiously yet with purpose. A spark ignited between them, a silent acknowledgement stemming from shared struggles and triumphs over adversity washed away by the light of this new day. A deep sense of gratitude enveloped him as he witnessed their reunion unfold beneath starlit skies, two souls intertwined through trials that had forged an unbreakable bond amid chaos. Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. This was not merely a moment of victory, but rather a testament to resilience and connection blossoming amidst harsh realities. But even in this fleeting instance of joy, reality continued its persistent knock at their door, an awareness that while one life had been restored today under these vast skies filled with possibility, countless others still awaited salvation within mountains teeming with unseen threats lurking just beyond reach. As they ventured further into the wilderness, whispers carried through towering pines like secrets shared between friends, every sound heightened, each heartbeat resonating within him. The urgency palpable as time slipped away from them all too swiftly. Despite being drawn into darker realms where dangers prowled like shadows, waiting for opportune moments to strike unexpectedly without warning, looming overhead, their partnership burgeoned stronger each passing minute, spent together facing challenges head-on, instead of retreating behind walls built from fear or doubt. Lacy's gentle nicker punctuated the stillness around them, a melody resonating warmth and determination, forging trust that transcended mere words. It served as an anchor, tethering them firmly despite circumstances threatening to unravel everything they'd fought tirelessly for thus far on this journey, fraught with uncertainty ahead, still awaiting discovery. Yet uncharted territory remained open before them. The dawn crept slowly over the horizon, spilling soft light across the rugged terrain as Willis stood in the corral, watching Lacy and Salvador. They grazed peacefully together, their silhouettes framed against the backdrop of the mountains that had been both a sanctuary and a battleground for them. The air was crisp with the promise of another day, and a sense of calm enveloped him like a warm blanket. "Look at you two," he murmured, leaning against the wooden fence. The bond between them radiated warmth. It was tangible even from where he stood. Lacy's dark coat glistened in the morning sunlight, while Salvador pranced around her, his youthful exuberance shining through every playful leap. It warmed Willis to witness this scene, a family reunited after chaos, an image he never imagined witnessing when he first arrived here, seeking solitude. A gentle breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it scents of pine and fresh earth that seemed to rejuvenate his spirit. He inhaled deeply, savoring this moment of tranquility amidst everything they had faced together. Each hoofbeat echoed resilience. Each nicker carried gratitude, a language spoken without words that transcended their differences. As Lacy lifted her head from grazing to meet his gaze, an unspoken connection sparked between them once more. "You've come so far," Willis said softly, knowing well how hard-fought their journey had been through darkness into light. Lacy's eyes reflected an understanding deeper than mere instinct. This mare knew what it meant to trust again after losing so much. He glanced toward the mountain pass they had traversed in peril just nights ago. Those peaks loomed high above them now, like ancient sentinels guarding secrets yet uncovered. For all its ferocity, the rockslide that almost claimed Lacy's life had transformed into an opportunity for rebirth instead of despair. Together, they had navigated treacherous paths forged by courage rather than fear. There were no regrets lingering in his heart today. Willis chuckled lightly as Salvador attempted to chase off an unseen fly, buzzing too close for comfort with exaggerated hops reminiscent of childhood games, a reminder that innocence still thrived amid adversity. "I think you might be ready for some training soon," he teased gently while stroking Lacy's neck affectionately. She leaned into him ever so slightly, seeking solace in familiar presence, their bond fortified by survival, Not just duty, but shared experience forged within trials most would shy away from facing alone. Hours passed like fleeting moments as Willis tended to chores around the ranch, checking on water troughs and ensuring hay was replenished. All tasks done with newfound purpose, ignited by these incredible creatures he'd welcomed into his life, unexpectedly.